Hey there guys, and welcome to today's episode of Matthew Presents. And this week, of course, I'm going to be continuing my best possible series, as I'm going to be going through all the episode 8s of New Who, and as always picking my favourite, so sit back and enjoy. So the episode 8, and I've got to say, looking at the episodes that we're going to be talking about, this is probably the best lineup of episodes that we've had so far. They're all brilliant. One, maybe a bit iffy, but I cannot wait to talk about these episodes today. It was such a difficult choice, and my mind keeps changing even now, but I'm going to stick to my original gut feeling. So yeah, the episodes 8, there's some fantastic one-parters in there, some episodes at the start, some fantastic two-parters. So I just cannot wait to get started with the first episode 8 in New Who, Father's Day. Now, Father's Day is an episode that at first obviously I watched it when it first aired, but I don't think I'd watched it again since, until a couple of months back. And I don't know why that was. I don't know if that's just because I just not got around to it, or it's an episode I've forgotten about. And I always look back and thought, Father's Day, I can't really remember that episode being that good, so I never really bothered to watch it. And then I can't remember if it was a YouTube review or something, but I heard somebody, and I watched somebody talk about Father's Day, and it made me think, you know what, I'll give this a rewatch just to see how good it is. I've not seen it in a long time, and I rewatched it, and it was amazing. I mean, it in series 1, what they did very well is they introduced us to what Doctor Who was, and they introduced us to all the different stories and all the different scenarios you could have. And Father's Day was a perfect scenario of taking someone back to seeing a dead relative, and obviously being a human, they'd get carried away. And of course, I mean, let's be honest, if you went back to see a dead relative, you probably would get overtook by seeing them again. You wouldn't care about the laws of time or anything like that. And I think Rose was amazing. It's one of her best episodes, I think, as a character, because the Doctor was a bit hesitant, obviously, to take her back to seeing her dead father. But when they did, he was like, right, be careful. And this reminded me a little bit, tiny bit of the Aztecs. Don't know why. A human goes back in time, gets a bit overconfident with the power of what they can do, and they change things, sort of. But that's only because I watched the Aztecs earlier, so yeah. It's kind of in my head at the moment. But yeah, Rose had a great part to play in this, and the Doctor really went mad with her. You know, he had a massive go at her, saying, you know, I think he called her an ape or something like that. Really got angry with him. We saw the dark side of the Ninth Doctor once again. And he really kind of put himself above humans, as to say, oh, you're all stupid. This is what happens when I take you travelling with me. You ruin everything. And I can see it from Rose's standpoint that, of course, if you see a dead relative, you want to save them. So it was a lovely dynamic to try and see Rose kind of battle against loving for her dead father and also the laws of time as well. Very interesting. And Joe and Harry will be glad to know that the Reapers were in this. And they've not appeared since. That's probably because they're too busy in their fan films. So, you know, that's where the Reapers have gone. But yeah, it was great to see them. I thought they were a great villain. And I like the setting as well. I thought it was a lovely little small setting in that church where the Reapers were trying to get in, and all seemed lost pretty much. But yeah, it took the courage of Rose to let what should happen happen, and to see her father get killed, for time to readjust itself in the correct line. And such a sad ending, you know, when she's lying there and you know her father's dying in her arms. It's just such a sad. And it's the reality of what has to happen. And again, the dark side of travelling with the Doctor. He can go around saving these people, but when it comes to a fixed point in time, he can't do anything about it. So what a fantastic episode for Rose. And it was a fantastic just time travelling story in its own. So I'd probably give Father's Day 9 out of 10. Now into series 2 with the first part of one of my favourite two-parters ever in New Who, and that was The Impossible Planet. And again, I can't believe I'm saying this twice in one video. Rose was fantastic in this story, but what I love most is the setting and that Doctor Who went really deep into religion. You know, the Doctor's religion was really questioned in this, and that's something very interesting that we never really get to explore much in Doctor Who. But you know, straight from the off, you know, seeing that the TARDIS won't translate this language showed that they were in a place that was very, very old, and a great introduction to the Ood as well. That you know, they're great monsters. The Oods, they obviously they mostly get possessed, and they did by the devil in this story, which quite a bold enemy for Doctor Who to kind of say this is the devil, so we think. So that was great, but we didn't really get to see the devil really until the second part. But in the first part, it introduced us to this group of explorers who were exploring this black hole. And of course, black holes are probably the biggest mystery in the universe because no one knows what is inside a black hole, what's on the other side of it. You know, so to have an episode surrounded by a black hole was brilliant. That's what I love the most about the story, is that you really did feel, and it's one of the only times in Doctor Who you really felt like you were in the middle of nowhere. You know, you go to planets and they say, oh, we're at the end of the universe, we're at the end of it, we're billions, trillions of light years away. But this was one of the episodes where I genuinely felt like I was so far away from Earth and felt like I was in the middle of nowhere, and that's what made it so good. They were trapped on this space station in the middle of nowhere with a black hole above them, with these Oods that were getting possessed, and there was nowhere for them to go. It was just such a great isolated setting, and to have these characters as well was great, and to see Toby get overtook by the devil was amazing, because it was like they were in this really small space and people were getting, you know, took off one by one, and everyone was questioning who could it be, a bit like a whodunit sort of story. So that was amazing. On top of the TARDIS getting, well, so we thought at the time, getting destroyed and getting took away from the, it was like earthquakes that they were getting caused by the black hole. So it honestly felt like you were isolated on this planet, which I absolutely loved. So, you know, along with the characters, along with the setting, along with the Ood, everything was just fantastic. I loved the essence of this story, and it was a great opening to a two-parter that didn't drag, and I'll talk about the second part more next week. So I'll probably give The Impossible Planet, again, a 9 out of 10. Next, another fantastic introductory story to a two-parter, Human Nature, and it's such a difficult choice this episode because there's so many great episodes, and this is another one which introduced one of the greatest villains, another clever villain into Doctor Who, which was the Family of Blood, and very interesting enemy, the way that they didn't really get to see what their true appearance was. They took obviously they took the appearance of humans, and they were tracking the Doctor down, and he literally did not want them to know who he was or what he looked like. They were that dangerous. So he had to do something that we'd never seen him do before, which was turn human. And absolutely surreal. I mean, it's very rare in Doctor Who that you get to see the Doctor as a character change completely, and you get to see the actor play someone pretty much completely different. I mean, it happened in The Enemy of the World with Patrick Troughton, of course, but this was different because he wasn't playing the villain. He was playing sort of the same guy, but a human version, and it was just so interesting, and it was such a clever idea, and it was executed brilliantly. The setting in the school was fantastic, him being a teacher, and I like the way that he was kind of surrounded by all these, you know, things that the Doctor would know, and it was kind of like it was knocking on the door to his head, and his head was kind of saying, no, I don't know what this is. So it kind of had us on the edge of our seat throughout this two-part. It just kind of saying, come on, Doctor, come back. We really need you. And at times, I'll probably admit, at times I was really wanting the Doctor in it. I mean, at times you could say, apart from the family, it didn't feel like a Doctor Who episode as much. And at times I was saying, I want the Doctor in this. I want more aliens in it. Because it didn't feel quite like Doctor Who at times. But I loved the dynamic of him being human and Martha having to kind of look after him. And this is what annoys me when people say Martha's not a good companion. She had such a difficult job to look after the Doctor while he was human. A job that's probably so difficult, no other companion could probably do it. Rose would probably end up crying because he wasn't the Doctor anymore. She'd probably end up crying and begging for him to come back, and probably like, what the hell are you doing? So I think Martha was perfect for this, and she was amazing in this story, as she is in most of Series 3. And to see John Smith fall in love as well was very interesting, because that just made him even more distant from the Doctor. So throughout he was just kind of saying, I want the Doctor to come back, and maybe at times I was wanting the Doctor to come back too much. But yeah, a fantastic story and a great introductory episode to a great two-parter as well. So I'd probably give Human Nature an 8.5 out of 10. My God, when you think that the episodes can't top the previous, they somehow do. Another flawless episode with Silence in the Library. Again, everything about this episode was just amazing. The setting again is just amazing, because you've got a library, which obviously is normally to all of us quite a busy environment with plenty of people, and it was the biggest library in the universe, and it was deserted, utterly deserted with no people, and it was just so spooky and so creepy. It was such a great environment, and we got these fantastic characters. We got introduced to River Song, who was amazing in this story. I mean, a character who's probably the most confusing in Doctor Who's history, but probably the most intriguing as well, because she waltzed in, she knew all about the Doctor, he knew nothing about her, she had a screwdriver, and honestly, she left me gagging for more, because I honestly could not wait to see more of River Song and wanted to know more about her. She was such a mystery in this story, and she's one of the many, many reasons why I was just so hooked. On top of that, and the great characters that we met, there was the Vashta Nerada, a fantastic creation again by Mr. Moffat, who was just so good at creating scary monsters. Why can't he do this all the time? But the Vashta Nerada, they need to come back. Please come back in series 8 or 9 or something, because they're not just a one-off monster. They should really come back. I mean, one of our basic fears, shadows, darkness, and it made people scared to stand in a shadow, because the way that you could stand in the shadow and get eaten by the Vashta Nerada was just incredibly spooky, and especially in an environment like the library. It was absolutely perfect for them, and it was just an amazing story. And Donna was on top form as well. There was nothing in this story that lacked at all. I honestly cannot really think of one fault with this story at all, really. It's just amazing, and Forest of the Dead is even better, so I can't really give Silence in the Library a 10 out of 10, because then Forest of the Dead would have to be an 11, even though Forest of the Dead is probably worthy of an 11 out of 10. I'll talk more about that next week. But yeah, fantastic setting, fantastic characters, fantastic villain, just a great opener to a two-parter. Probably my favourite two-parter in New Who. Silence in the Library gets a 9.5 out of 10. Now, at the start of this video, I said that there was quite a lot of great episodes and one iffy episode. This is the iffy one, not because it's bad. That's the weird thing. That's the frustrating thing, more like, because it's, standing Hungry Earth and Cold Blood. Of course, I'm just talking about Hungry Earth at this point, but the two-parter as well. Putting that on its own, it's fantastic, and it's a great story, and quite a powerful one between two species fighting over Earth and the Doctor keeping peace. But cast your minds to a certain classic story called Doctor Who and the Silurians. And I don't know if this is just me, if it's you as well, comment below, but I cannot watch The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood without comparing it to Doctor Who and the Silurians. The Doctor stuck between two species trying to make peace. It just seems a bit recycled, like Chris Chibnall was kind of taking bits of Doctor Who and the Silurians and kind of adapting it. And I really wish I could look at The Hungry Earth on its own and judge it on its own and nothing else, but I just compare it to Doctor Who and the Silurians, and that's what drags it down for me. Don't get me wrong, the Silurians rebooted in Modern Who, they looked brilliant. I don't think that they were possibly executed to their very best. I thought they could have been a bit more brutal. They maybe looked a bit too cute. I don't know if that's just me again, but they didn't look as threatening as they maybe could have. But I love the dynamic of two species fighting over planet Earth and the Doctor being in the middle. It's brilliant, but like I said, it's kind of, I just feel like it's been done before in Doctor Who and the Silurians, and that's what really lets it down for me. So, a fantastic story on its own, but considering that there was Doctor Who and the Silurians, that does exist, for me personally, I'd probably have to give The Hungry Earth, I'll be generous, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Now we're into Series 6, and we just got over the 3-month gap. We were returning to the shock that River Song was Amy and Rory's daughter, and we got Let's Kill Hitler. And it started so very well. I'll admit, this story progressed. The story arc of Series 6 once again progressed it very well. And it started off with a shocker. I mean, straight off the bat, we met Amy's childhood friend, and then she ended up regenerating into River Song, and it was like, oh my God, throughout Amy's life, her and Rory had been growing up with their own daughter, which was quite surreal and a shocker. Really, really shocked me. A fantastic twist once again to River Song's character and to the story arc of Series 6. And I like the way it progressed with the Tesselector, although the Tesselector ended up being one of the reasons why Series 6 was utterly ruined in the end. But I feel as if the setting was wasted. I think this episode could have happened in any other setting, with any other characters. I think Let's Kill Hitler was just a title that was only used to grab viewers. I mean, Hitler was in it for not that long, and they threw him in a cupboard, and it's like, are you trying to make us feel sorry for Adolf Hitler? When Rory punched him, I was like, get in there, Rory, but I just thought they should have made Hitler seem a bit more of a, well, what he was really, a dickhead than a guy we should sympathise for. So I think Hitler being in there it didn't have to be in there really. It was just there because that would bring in viewers, that would hook viewers. Let's Kill Hitler, the title, wasn't really incorporated into the story that much. And the Nazis and the environment, like I said, this episode could have been done somewhere else. So I think the setting was wasted, and it didn't have to be that setting. I think it was used just to grab viewers, but the story itself did progress the story arc very well. But one thing that always gets me is that River annoys me in this story. I mean, she's so flirtatious, and it just really puts me off. We've just saw that River is Amy and Rory's daughter, and we're like, oh my God, this character is so shocking. And then she goes and flirts and annoys me. So, bit of a letdown for the character of River Song, but it did progress the story very well. I just thought the setting was not really used too well, and it was kind of misused when it shouldn't have been. So I'd probably give Let's Kill Hitler a 6 out of 10. And finally, into Series 7, Cold War. Now, Tom Dix, if you're listening to this, please pay deep, deep attention. Now, I might drop Tom in it, and of course, you all know him as a very controversial person, and most of you probably dislike him for his opinions, but that's just Tom. Yeah, he thinks that this story is the worst of all time. Meaning, Cold War's worse than The Twin Dilemma, worse than Time and the Rani, worse than The Wedding of River Song, and all the other not-so-good stories we've had in Doctor Who history. Where the hell he got that from, I have no idea. Now, Cold War is the shortest episode of Doctor Who to date, ever. It was only just over 40 minutes long, and some people who are nitpicky are like, oh, it's the shortest episode, it's rubbish. The time doesn't matter. As long as you get a good story and it's not a cop-out ending, a lot like Series 7 mostly, it's a good story. And again, like Let's Kill Hitler, you could say that the whole Cold War setting may have been misused. I mean, the title of Cold War, yes, we were in a Russian submarine, and yes, it was in the Cold War, but you could have been on any submarine with Russians at any time. Just because the Cold War was a massive war and it involved a lot of submarines and a lot of Russians, of course, that was the perfect opportunity. And the title being Cold War, I don't know if that was a reference to the Ice Warriors being made of ice. Cold War, I don't know. But apart from the nitpicks about the settings and stuff, I don't see why it's such a bad story. I love the setting of the Russian submarine, because I just like little isolated settings, like with the Impossible Planet. You're in quite a small setting, and that there was this horrible villain that was kind of weaving its way through the corridors. You didn't know where it was, and people were getting killed off one by one. Cold War was very similar. You're on a submarine, there was an Ice Warrior that was let loose, and it was killing people. And I love the Ice Warrior, because to us modern fans, it was the first time we'd properly seen one. Of course, they were in the classics as well, but to see them in the modern series was great. They were rebooted very well, hardly any difference to the classics, which I guess is a really good thing. And yeah, they made I think it was General Shaldak or something like that, but they made him seem like such a superior Ice Warrior who you had to honor and you had to literally obey. and it really made him seem a lot more sinister than he could have been, and it made you scared of that monster and scared of the villain a lot more, just the way that they built up his presence and who he was. And the only nitpick I have about because I love the way the Ice Warrior, I loved his voice, I just loved how mysterious he was and how dark he was. The only problem I've got with Cold War is that they revealed the Ice Warrior's face and they let it out of its armor. And as much as some enemies, we've always wanted to say, well, I'd love to see the inside of that, I'd love to see the face of that villain, some villains are just best left alone, and the Ice Warrior is one of them. So I think Gatiss got a bit overexcited, showing us the Ice Warrior's face, and I don't think the Ice Warrior unmasked looked that good, to be honest. So I would have preferred the Ice Warrior going on a killing spree still in its armor, but nevertheless, apart from that, I think it was a pretty good story. I think the characters we met were very good, but like I said, the setting was misused, and taking the Ice Warrior out of its mask was just a big mistake, really. So, Tom, I would not go as far as to say it's the worst episode of all time. It's a good episode, not the best. So I'd probably give Cold War, again, a 6 out of 10. Now, this is the hardest conclusion I've had to make so far, and when I first constructed my best possible series, episode 8 was the one that I changed my mind on more times than any other, because there's so many great stories, and I will say I've not chosen any of the two-parters, meaning I've not chosen The Impossible Planet, I've not chosen Human Nature, and I've not chosen Silence in the Library and The Hungry Earth. And you might be saying, what the hell are you doing? They're all amazing. They are all amazing episodes. But there's an episode in the episode 8 that I really want to praise, and I really want to give it the complimentary that it deserves. And I think I can still give a best possible episode 9 to one of the two-part stories, because I think with all the opening parts to these two-parters, they've all been great introductory episodes, but I think a two-parter should be truly judged on how it is concluded in the second part. So I will tell you, my best possible episode 9 is one of the two-parters. So I will be complimenting them and giving the justice they deserve next week. But I will say my favourite episode 8 is a story that explored the consequences of time travel unbelievably well. It showed what would happen if you gave a human the power of changing the past, especially if a family member was involved, and it gave the character of Rose Tyler some fantastic development, and it's one of the very rare episodes where she is absolutely fantastic in it. So, despite it not being the most highly rated episode, I think I should judge the two-parters on their second part next week, and considering that Father's Day is just a one-part story, I felt as if I needed to reward it right now, right here, so my favourite episode 8 does go to Father's Day. So then guys, thank you for watching this week's video. As always, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and comment below your favourite episode 8 of New Who. Tell me what it is and why in the comments below. And until then guys, have a good weekend. I'll be back this Monday with episode 9 of my best possible series. So have a good weekend, take care, and I'll see you next week.